So the deadline is on Tuesday, so that is next week. And you should send via the portal, which is supposed to be assignment 2. So if you look at that assignment, I expect you to discuss the hardware clock. There are 2 types of clocks. So types of clocks. Types of clocks. One of them, we have hardware clock. And number 2, we have what you call the software clock. So within the hardware clock, I expect you to discuss on a simple clock. So in this simple clock, it uses some volts. So it uses volts. Let me call them maybe watts. It uses watts, that is power. Then we need to look at what you call the programmed clock. Programmed clock. And in this programmed clock, I expect you maybe to discuss on different presentations of maybe the oscillation of the clock. So this is where we need to have what you call the program counter. The program counter when you are dealing with this presentation of the data that we have. So I expect within the programmed clock, I expect a diagram that we are supposed to come up with to show me how the clock moves from one point to another. Then I expect functions of hardware clocks. Functions of hardware clocks. Then in the software clock, remember here we are talking about the CPU clocks. So I expect you to come up with functions and implementation of these clocks. So the books that you can use online. You can use online platform. Maybe you download that book on William Staring, or a book by somebody called Tannenbaum. So a person called Tannenbaum. So if you look at those books, or maybe you can research from that, and I want you to avoid use of Wikipedia. Avoid use of Wikipedia. So don't use Wikipedia to come up with that. So I expect you to write that paper. You can use online, and you include the references. So include references. Include references for that assignment that we have. Then there is another assignment that we have on mirroring, software mirroring, and hardware mirroring. That is clock mirroring or hardware mirroring, and what you call disk cloning. So disk mirroring and disk cloning. So in that case, you can do some research, and the deadline is on Tuesday, so please submit that assignment. And today, we need to go back to our last class. And I remember the last class we were dealing with, so we are looking at the previous class. And the previous class, we are looking at various algorithms, mostly on our disks. And one of them was scan. The next was C-scan. The next was FIFO, or fast come, fast serve. The next one was shortest seek time. Then we had look, and then we had what you call the CLOOK algorithm. So please make sure that you understand all these algorithms. If there is a question, maybe you can ask. If maybe we need to repeat this, we can repeat maybe from next week. So we set a class that we can maybe repeat them from next week. But if there is an issue, please, first of all, maybe I can receive your issues before we proceed to the next topic that is called file management. So the next topic that we are supposed to cover is what you call file management. So before that, let us have some questions. And the questions that we are supposed to have is about the last class that we discussed on disks. So any question up to that point, maybe if there is a question you can ask. I think the last class, Karani, you are not there. Karani, were you there? You are not there. I think we had two students. One was Joshua, and we had already, who is not here today.
I was not present.
So you are not there. So have you run the notes? Have you seen the videos that I sent? There was a video that you are supposed to maybe follow. And there are some notes that I even sent to you. Are you able to follow those videos or those notes?
No, I'll look at them after this class.
Okay, please, can you go and look at them? Today I will end our class early. Our class may be at 3:30. So we have 1 hour. Then after that, maybe you can go and do that. You revise whatever we did last week. Then after that, maybe next week you can have some questions that you can ask. Maybe let me come back to Joshua. I think, Joshua, you are here last week. Was there any question? Is there any question right now?
I'm okay.
Oh, you are okay. So you can still be assisting each other. Maybe you can be using Zoom. Maybe you can use Zoom to assist each other. You can use SMSs. Still, you can use Google Meet and many other platforms that you can use. Maybe you set a class that you can be able to assist each other for our revision. Remember, we are now coming to an end of our syllabus. And when you come to an end of our syllabus, we require more revisions. So let us go to the file system. And when you talk about file system, what comes in our mind is the application, the services, and what we should be able to use in order to process all the jobs that we have. So in this case, we need to look at file management as a whole. And when you look at file management, we are looking at a way of organizing. We are looking at a way of maintaining. We're looking at maintaining, to maintain, and we are looking at a way of creating. Maybe the awareness we are creating, or how the files are supposed to be maybe managed with that. So we allow the user to create a file, we allow the user to maintain a file, we allow the user to organize a file, and the whole of that is the one that we are calling file management. So management comes from the word manager. So file, I think you know what is the definition, the correct definition of a file, where we always say that a file is a collection of related information, related info. So if now there's related information, we are talking about maybe students. The student has some relations with another student or the other student. So it's like we are grouping the students with similar functions. So in this case, for you to group this, we can say we have a student file. So let me call it a student file. And I want you to differentiate between file and another one that we always call it the folder. Because when you're looking at a folder, we always say that a folder is a storage or the collection of a file. But for this case now, we are saying a file is a collection of related information. So this related information must have what you call attributes. and still it must have what you call records. So we need to understand what is an attribute and what is a record. I think you have done computer application. Are you through with computer application? Are you through with computer application? Yes, Joshua, Karani, are we through? Are you through? Okay, yeah. Have you gone to maybe? Have you started access?
No.
Okay, so I think maybe I can explain in deep. So we look at attributes as fields, or these ones are the ones that we call them characteristics. Characteristics of a file. Characteristics of a file. And when I talk about characteristics of a file, I'm talking about name, I'm talking about age, I'm talking about maybe we can have gender, maybe I'm talking about the course that you are doing, the course ID, the course name, etc. So we have different users or different students, but these different students, they have different IDs, different genders. Some of them we have maybe genders which are the same, but names are different. You have the names that are the same, and the age is different. So it depends with what you are looking at. And in this case, we need to understand that when you're talking about these file systems, these files, we can have the first person as X, maybe the first person as 20, the next person gender is a male, maybe the course is ICT. Then we have another person called Y, having 21 years, who is a female and maybe doing sales. So if you look at those two people, if you combine these two people, or you combine their attributes, they form a file. But the moment you talk about the first student, who is having all these categories, now we can say that one is a record. So a record is a collection of related attributes. A collection of related attributes. So in this case, we can be able to understand that the moment we are talking about a student should be able to do some jobs, but these jobs are related or maybe they are different. So in that case, that's why we come up with what we call the file system, the file management, where the file management is organizing, maintaining, and creation of files within an operating system. But the moment you are creating this operating system, this file, we must use what you call the file types. And I want to take you back to this attribute. So the moment you talk about an attribute, I want to give you an overview of a file. Maybe I call it, maybe this is structured. This file, if I right click this file, automatically I go to properties. I'll have some attributes within this file. One of them is what you call the location. The next one is the size. The next one is created. The next one is modify, etc. Then we can have what you call the file name and the file type. So we have the file type, file name, location, size, and maybe the date that it was created and the date that it was modified. So with respect to that, we can now say this file, it has attributes like location, it has size, etc. But one of the types that we can have a document. When you go to another one, maybe if you go to another one, like maybe I go to this, which is a PowerPoint, I right click, so automatically I'm supposed to get another view. So in this case, we have .ppt. If you right click on a file that is maybe represented as a one document, it is .docx. But for this one, it is now written as .pptx. If maybe I have a PDF Do I have a PDF in this desktop? Maybe let me use an Excel. So this is an Excel. I go to a property. Automatically, I have .xlsx, meaning that is an Excel document. So if you try to look at those, there are different sizes that are portrayed within these files that we have. And the size is always given in terms of bytes. So we give the size in terms of bytes. So what we can say is that we are having an Excel file which has a size of 10.7 kilobyte, which is 11,007 bytes. So where this one is 1 million and some bytes on top of that. The other one is 300,000 and some bytes on top of that. So if you look at these files, we can say there are different types of files. One of them is document. Maybe we have an Excel file. We have an RTF file. Then we have a CSV file. And a CSV file, because I have a CSV file here, this is a CSV file. If you right-click this file, automatically you go to a property. You'll find that now the extension is .csv. If I want to change this, maybe I can change this to RTF. Maybe I can maybe rename that. Not rename, I open that. Then I save. Maybe that is how it is supposed to be given out. Maybe I save as, maybe on the desktop. And then I come here, I change RTF. Unless it's not here, it cannot allow us to do that. Okay, it is not here according to the one that I'm using, but I can convert it to PDF. So when I convert it to PDF, what can I get within the file? Is it changing the formatting? Is it changing the files that we have? Those are the questions that you need to ask yourself. And what I have here, I don't know whether maybe I can relocate that file where it has gone. So you find that this is Nick data. This is the one. So we are looking at the Excel document. We are looking at this document. Maybe we can try to save, maybe using another format. Maybe, let's see, we have another format that we have. Maybe we can use a normal Excel. We can use a normal Excel. Maybe we use tab delimiter and we save it. So Nick data. So this is the one. So we are having a document which is now as a text. So within this, if you try to open this, you get the same information. If you try to open this, you get the same information. If you try to open this, you still get the same information. But the arrangement is not an issue. I want to get the size of this. Maybe the size of this is how 135 KB. If you go to this, the size of this is what? 2.24 MB. When you look at this, this is for the notepad, which is 56.2. This one is 135 KB. So we know that KB is the smallest of all. So we have started with the KB, so which is 35. So we can arrange them. So this is the first one. This is the second one. And the next one is the third one. So we are looking at now KB, then MB. Because 1000 KB, 1024 KB is 1 byte. So that is one thing that we need to understand here. So 1024 KB is as a representation of 1 byte. 1000 MB is as a representation of 1 GB, etc. on that. So if we know that, we can see now the same file that we had, it has reduced the size completely when you use a notepad. So in this case, we are looking at resources that are mostly used here. Resources themselves will require less resources. So for you to convert that, that's why it is taking less storage. When you look at this, it is taking a lot of storage than this, but it is the middle of that is the PDF file. So the PDF file itself, it has a lot of storage, and it requires a lot of storage because this storage, it requires some security mechanisms within it. So remember, when you are having this file, it is not interfering with the virus when you're using this, irrespective of how the file is. It doesn't affect other files that are within the computer, or it is not affected still with the virus. So you find this is more vulnerable to virus, these two, and this is not vulnerable to virus. So in this case, we need to understand that when you try to change a certain file, that is the one thing that we need to note. We don't change the location. We don't change the location. If you don't want to change the location, we can retain the same location with the same name. You can see that we have not changed the name and this, but if I try to replicate this data, automatically it cannot allow that because we cannot use a replicated data or a replicated file on the same location. So that is the first thing that we need to understand. But the size changes. So the size of a file changes. So the attribute of a file is changing. But what it is not changing is the file name. The file type is changing. And if you want to retain the same type, maybe there's a PDF file, you now need to relocate it to another location. So that is one thing that we need to consider here. So in this case, what we need to understand about the files, we have talked about the types of files. We have the other one, we have the notepad. That one, we have talked about the notepad. Maybe we have CSV, we have the .delimiter file, we have .wav. WAV is a file extension that is mostly used on audios. So that is a player. So it is a player that is mostly used for audio purposes. Then we have others that we call it JPG. Maybe we have NPEG, NPG files, etc., or MPEG, and many others that we have. So there are many file types that we have that can be used to create a directory. So these are the ones that you'll be using to create a directory. Remember, the next thing that we are supposed to cover is the directory. But now the question is, what can you do with this file? If you have a file like a document file, one thing that I can do with this file is to do what you call, so we are looking at file operations. We are looking at the file operations, and one of the file operations is to create. You create a file. Maybe you can delete a file. If you want to delete a file, you can append a file. You can truncate a file. And maybe we can still add a file. So there is a difference between and maybe we can say modify, maybe on that. So the moment you say create, what are you doing? We are now introducing a new file in the system, and we can use some commands. I will come back to this. So we use mkdir command. We will come to this because this is examinable. We can use delete. Maybe we use delete. You delete command. Maybe append, we use we are appending a certain file. So we are using create. Then after that, so we are using mkdir append A. Maybe we use truncate is where we have a file structure, but you remove or you delete some content within the file, but you retain the structure the way it is. Like now, I can come to this, I delete whatever is here, the whole of this. When I try to delete whatever it's here, so automatically will be left with nothing. And maybe we can see if I use the PowerPoint, because I'm still using this data, if I use Notepad and I want to delete this, maybe we can delete this. And then we can click save. So automatically we have left the structure of a file, but inside the structure we don't have a content. So within this, if I try to right click and I see how many bytes have been allocated to this, so we will find maybe I try to come to this file, I try to go to the properties. Then when I go to the properties, I have 0 byte, but the name, it's not changing. So in this concern, or in this case that you are having here, the only thing that we can be able to understand is that we have already removed the content, but the structure of a file we have not removed. That is what you call truncation. You truncate. So up to that, do you have any question after that? There is a very simple and easy topic that you can do. Okay, Kimathi, Karani, I think you had an issue with the sound. Karani,
Yes.
can you hear now?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, Kimathi, do you have any question? Kimathi, do you have any question? Joshua, do you have any question? Karani, do you have any question now?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Anybody with a question? Can we continue? So I want us to go to our notes, and I want to use the same notes that I had sent to you to your portal. Remember, I've already sent the notes to your portal, and I want to open them the way they are. And if you look at this, we are looking at the file management, where we have said is the named collection of written information. A file is a named collection of that. We have already defined that. And we have said we need to look at this file management, where we are saying this is organizing file, but we require a structure to organize that. And this structure is the one that we always say we have a file certain defined structure according to its type, be according to the functions and the objectives of these. So I think we have talked about the file attributes, and one of them we have said is the file name, file location, file type, date and time, size, etc. Then we have file type. We always classify them into two, ordinary and three, ordinary files, directory files, and special files. But our main concern within these files is to understand when are we supposed to use these files and how are we supposed to use them. Are we using them as a document file? Are we using them as a PDF file? Are we using it as that? So in that case, maybe we can call them maybe as an ordinary file. So those are ordinary files. Maybe we have directory files. Maybe these are the files that are related with other informations. Mostly we look at RTF files and many others that we call delimiters and etc. So in this case, what we need to understand about these files is that we are having the file type called document. We are having a file type called PDF. We are having a file type called maybe Excel, etc. But how should we use that file? Or when are we supposed to use that file? So in the concern of using this file, we must be able to understand that it must be used with a mechanism, in a given mechanism. And that mechanism is the one that we call the directories. So there are some notes that are not here. I have omitted some notes here, types of directories. So I will send those types of directories, and then After that, you'll be able to understand what I'm saying with this. So in this case, that's why we need to look at types of directories. Types of directories or directory. What is a directory? Currently, we are not calling them directory. We call them folders. We call them folders. Currently, we call them folders. But if you look at the aspect of the directory that we had, they were classified in different types. And these types of the directory that we had, one of them was what we call the one level directory. We had what you call the two level directory. Then the next one that we had is what you call the three-level directory. Then we have what you call the acyclic level directory. A cyclic level directory, or sometimes we call it a cyclic graph level directory. So if you look at these directories that we have, one level directory, two level directory, three level directory, a cyclic level directory, they are used with different stages because we have to manage them. And what we have said about directories are a collection of files. So I want us maybe to come up with the first directory, and remember we'll be using the presentation of the folders, the types of files that we have already talked about. So I can explain, and maybe you see how we lay them out or we structure them. And in this case, when you are talking about one level directory, we are looking at one entry. There is only one entry. And that one entry means that one user at a time. So you cannot have an access of these directories at the same time. So if you have about 20 students, 20 users who are using the system, they have to wait for the first person to complete the use of the file. So in this case, we can say we are having one entry. And this one entry, we can say we have a directory A, we have a binary directory maybe, and we have another K, maybe we have L, maybe we have M. So out of these directories that we have currently, now we need to have some files. So I access one file at a time. So I cannot access, even if I have these directories, and I'm the one who is accessing them, I cannot access this directory at the same time, these files at the same time. I have to access one directory, one file at a time, meaning I have to access this file first. When I complete with this, maybe I access to this. So the mode of access that we have is what you call the serial access. And we will look at that afterwards. So in this case, there is one limitation. One limitation that we have is that there is one user at a time. The second one, we waste a lot of time when you're accessing these files because we have to wait for one person to complete the access of those files. Then the next thing that we have, there is no sharing of files. And that is one of the important things that we need to consider when you're looking at the files that we are accessing at a given time. So in this case, if you are not sharing files, automatically it becomes an issue when you want to maybe share some files from one user to another. So the main advantage, or one advantage that we have within this structure is that it is easy to implement. We don't require a lot of resources, or we don't require a lot of manpower to do that. We require minimal utilization of resources so that we can be able to install the applications that are within this directory that we have. So that is one advantage that we have, that we don't require a lot of resources. But the main aim is that we need to do what you call sharing of files. And if we cannot create some shareable files, automatically we have some issues of access. And that's why we need to look at now, how can we do this? We try to create a sharing of files, or we try to create more directories at a given time. And that is now the way we always move to the next directory, which is called a two-level directory. And the moment we're talking about our ThreeLevel directory, one thing that we need to consider here is where this directory now, they are now converted to users. So you can have users 1, you can have users 2, then you can have users n. So that is the maximum user that you have because you allow many users within that. And these users that we are having here, they allow you to come up with your own directory. So remember here, I was only using one directory at a time. So here, one user can come up with many directories. So B, C, etc, D, etc. The same to this, you can have many directories. So how many levels are you now in? So we have A and maybe we have B. Then we have another one here. Maybe we have K, L, maybe M, N, etc. So these are 2 levels. So we have level 0, which sometimes it's called the root directory, but we cannot call it the root directory when we are here. We need to call it in another level, which is now in the ThreeLevel directory. So for this one, we have level 0 and level 1. So what we have now trying to create here, we have trying to create what we call the subdirectories. These subdirectory now we can have some files. So we have now improved the access. We have manipulated the access. We have tried to enlarge or do what you call scalability. We have now trying to make sure that now files are many in access at a given time, and we don't lose content within a given time because users have their own mandate of making sure that the security is provided within these directories. That's why sometimes you always say that the directory, the security is always supposed to be provided in directory level. So if the security is not provided within the directory level, you find that now that becomes an issue. So for this case, we can say most of the operating system can apply to this or can use this, but now they are applying security in users level or in directories level, where each directory has its own security, and that's why you provide security in each and every directory with that. But who provides that is the file system that does that. So you find that here we are trying to create more files. We have tried to improve access. We have tried to increase in flexibility. Remember here we don't have flexibility. Here we have tried to improve in flexibility, and we have tried to improve on access where we can use what you call sequential access. So here we are using serial, here we are using sequential now. So which becomes now a way of improving the access of these files. So those are 2 main directories that we have. Unless there is a question at that point, maybe you can ask a question. Then when you ask a question, maybe we can move. So I'm waiting for a question. I'm waiting for a question. Yes, Amodi?
Okay.
You're okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Maybe Karani?
I'm okay.
Okay. So I think we can continue to the next one. And for today, I want us to go up to the last one, which is a cyclic level directory. Then I'll review maybe to go and do that assignment so that we meet on next week. We do on the next subtopic, which is file allocation techniques. So if you look at the next one that we have, is what you call the ThreeLevel directory. And within the ThreeLevel directory, yes?
Is it a 3-level or a 3-level?
Three, muti.
Okay.
3.
Okay.
Yes, it is not 3, it is 3.
Okay.
This one,
Yeah.
That one. Can you see that now?
Yes.
So that is the name that I'm talking about. The
Okay.
3 level. 3, not 3. ThreeLevel Directory. So in this ThreeLevel Directory, I want to use another notepad, Paint. I don't want to close that. So if you use a ThreeLevel Directory, we now create what you call, for this one, we are creating what you call the master. We are creating the master directory. This is the master. The same case, when you come to this, we can now allow the master directory. So for this case, we can say we are having the master. Just a minute. So we are having a master file. We can call it a master file because when you come to a ThreeLevel directory, we allow these files to become a directory. So if we are having a directory A, it is still defined as a file. When you are having another one, which is B, it can also be defined as a file. When you are having another one as C, it is also defined as a file. Maybe when you are having another D, a directory, it can also be referred to as a file. So in this case, if you look at the ThreeLevel directory, it is allowing you to come up with multiple directories. So we can create subdirectories. So for this case, I want to create the first subdirectory. So we create the first subdirectory. Maybe I call it K. Maybe I call it doc. Then this one, I can have another directory. Maybe I call it A and I call it M. Then I have another one here where now I can call it J, maybe, and I call it K. Then the same case here, I can have another directory. I call it L, M, maybe I call it another one N. So this directory can create another directory. So you can create another directory. So where we have maybe A and we have another B. But here we can still have a file. And here I have a file. So that is now the end of our level that we are supposed to have. So for this one, it allows you to create another file. Maybe this one can create a directory. Maybe we call it JL. This one we create a file, and here we create another file. So for this one, we can have a file, and maybe this one we can have a file. For this one, we can have a directory. We call it A, B. Then here we can have another directory. Remember that these directories are not sharing some access. Maybe we have A, another one, and another B. Maybe we have another one, which is J, N, or M, because we cannot have the same directory. So it is a directory inside another directory. So these ones now, you can have file. So you can have file. So the circle represent files. So for this case, what we have trying to improve is now we have trying to create all the directory as files. And this is where we have level 0, then we have level 1, then we have level 2. So a directory creating another subdirectory. But the main issue that we have here is that we don't have sharing of files. And that is now our important thing that we have. But we have tried to improve on flexibility. We have tried to improve on more access, scalability of files. But we have not improved or we have not increased in terms of maybe the access. Remember, when you're accessing these files, sometimes you can still find there is another file called AB. Why are we not sharing these files? And at the same level, they are in the same level. So if they are in the same level, you are supposed to share them. Because if this is a directory that we are having, it allows you to share all these files. But now we are not sharing them. That's why, for you to improve this and you create the file security within the file level, that's why they went to what you call they are cyclic. So this is a 3. This is a 3-level directory. Then we have to move to what you call a cyclic. So we move to what you call a cyclic. And when you move to a cyclic graph directory, it is the same as a ThreeLevel directory. Just a minute. It is the same as a ThreeLevel directory, but one important thing that we have within this is that we are allowing what you call sharing of files. We are allowing sharing of files. Just as an explanation, we have K. So here we are allowing subdirectories. So we have A, J, M, N. Then we can have another one here. Maybe we have M, B, or K. Remember, this is a directory. We cannot have B here. Maybe this is the one that we have L, W. Suppose we have these files. So remember here, we can create a directory. But because now here we have another directory, we can now associate this directory with this. So when you associate this, we are saying, so we can associate directory with another directory, or we can associate the file that is here with the file that is supposed to be accessed by this. Where this one is supposed maybe to create another directory. So let me try to expound this, because now we have maybe this one we can share with this, where this one allows you to create a directory called A and called B. But this one is now allowing you to create a directory. Sorry. It is allowing you to create a directory, and this directory, maybe you can call it MJ. So within this level, we can now have another maybe directory here. We are having A and W. So in this level, we have another one. Maybe we can have another directory. So suppose this one had a file. So this one can communicate with this. And this one maybe has a file somewhere. So this one has a file, but this file can communicate with this. So this is now another one with a different directory file, and this one with another different file. So if you look at this, we are allowing sharing of directories and sharing of files. That is the improvement that we have within this type of the directory that we have, because we can allow expandability. We can allow more users to access this directory and share the files that we have. So that is what we have on this cyclic level directory and the ThreeLevel directory, where we can differentiate that now this is more efficient. But the problem is if one file loses the control, the other one loses the control. So we have multiple duplication or multiple representation of data loss within this kind of an operating system that is using this kind of a structure. Are we together? So are we understanding the concept that I'm talking about?
Yes.
Are we understanding the concept that I'm talking about?
Yes.
Are we understanding now? If I tell you maybe to differentiate between those ThreeLevel directories that we have, is there any issue that we have?
No.
Okay. Anybody with a question up to that point? Because I want to end at that point, and then maybe I give you a quiz that you can do. Then we challenge ourselves using a forum. I will post it in a forum. So instead of doing it as a quiz, maybe we can do it in a forum. I'll post it there so that we can try to answer the questions. Maybe we ask ourselves whether it is correct or wrong. Are we able now to move to the forum? Can we move to the forum?
Yes.
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 So I think we can move to that forum. So remember that now, next week, we will start from file organization techniques or file organization methods. And those file organization methods, we'll be able to talk about contiguous allocation, indexed, and chained. Those are the allocations that we'll be able to talk about. And that's why I'm saying this is a very simple topic that you should be able to look at. But before we end the lesson, if you look at this directory or any directory that we have here, maybe if you look at the last one that we have already discussed, this now becomes the root. And when you're accessing the file, there are two ways of accessing the file or two ways of addressing. One way that you have in addressing is called absolute referencing. So you have two types of referencing. Referencing. One, you have what you call the absolute referencing and relative referencing. When you use absolute referencing, we move from the root directory. When you move to this, we move to the immediate directory. Suppose now, if I want to move to a certain file here, maybe I can use my example here, and I want to access this file here. Maybe the proposal. Let me use this. Maybe, or I use this. If I right click and then I go to property, the location, if I go to the location, what can I see? I can see users, Nicholas desktop. That is one thing that you can see here. So you can see that file. So the moment you are accessing from the root, because this is the root directory, we are using what you call the absolute referencing. But the moment I access from the immediate directory, so if I was supposed to access this, remember I'm accessing the file called nickdata.pdf. So in this case, we have nickdata.pdf. Nickdata.pdf. So in this case, we can say we are using the immediate file. We are using the immediate file. Just a minute. So if you look at the file that we have here, we are saying C root directory users Nicholas desktop nickdata.pdf. So in this case, we can say this is our immediate directory. So if I press enter, I'm saying I'm accessing this through the use of what you call relative. But for this case, when I'm accessing this file, this is called absolute referencing. So the moment you're accessing the absolute data, we are accessing it from the root directory, but when it's relative, we are accessing it from the immediate directory. And the immediate directory is desktop. So when I write with a slash, then nickdata.pdf, I'm referring to an immediate directory. So there is no need of even repeating this. I say desktop slash that. This one means from immediate directory. And I think you have ever seen somewhere, you still look at the file access, which is written asterisk. And this means, the asterisk means all files. So this means it is all files. All files. So you're accessing all files within that. So next time, I want us to start from the commands. To work with commands. Then, when you're working with commands to create a directory use in one application, in Windows operating system, then after that, we'll be able now to go to the file allocation method. Am I clear?
Yes.
So I think now we can meet in the forum. So let us meet in the forum. So we challenge the questions that are there. I will be marking them, responding to you. Remember, each and every person should be able to respond. And then we'll be able to move to the next level so that now we can have a clear presentation of our class. Let's meet there. So give me about 5 minutes. Let's meet maybe from 3:25. Let's meet at 3:25 in the forum. You'll find a question there, then you post some answers, then I'll mark those answers. And then we'll be able to communicate using that forum.
Okay.